Billy, how
We
you
need to
doing?
get rolling. Welcome to this evening's Muskogee Municipal Authority, June 12, 2017. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman. Janie Boydston. Here. Wayne Johnson. Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
We are accounted for at this point. Regular agenda item number 1.
Consider approval of MMA minutes of May 8th, 2017, and special call MMA of May 22nd, 2017.
Are there additions or corrections? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of MMA claims for month ending May 2017.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, I'll take that. We have before you the claims for MMA. It pays the debt service and retains money for capital projects and otherwise transfers to cover operational expenses, and we recommend approval.
Move for approval. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed. Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. So that concludes our municipal authority agenda. We'll now go to our city council agenda. Invocation this evening will be by Council Member Ivory Van, and then join us following for the flag salute.
May we bow our heads in a word of prayer, please. Our Heavenly and most gracious Father, this evening, dear Lord, just thank you, God, for your grace and your mercy. Just thank you, Lord, just for letting us live to see another beautiful and bright day. And Lord, just continue to bless our city, dear Lord, and help our citizens, oh Heavenly Father, and help us up here to make the right decisions, not just because what we think, but what our citizens put us up here to do, dear Lord. And just continue to bless us through this week. For we ask all these blessings in your name for your sake. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us for the flag salute. Attention. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me apologize in advance. If I goof up tonight, Tammy may have to poke me. I left my highlighted copy of my minutes on my iPad at my house a couple of hours ago. So we'll get through this, though. We'll now do roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman. Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson. Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Okay, do we need... Marlon's here.
Marlon.
Okay, do we need an excuse, Mr. Johnson?
Councilman Johnson.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second to excuse Councilman Johnson. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. We'll now consider the special call minutes from May the 16th and the regular minutes from May the 22nd's meetings. Are there additions or corrections to those minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson. Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. And both of those sets of minutes pass. The consent agenda is items 1 through 7, I think it was. Six, sorry. Is there anything on 1 through 6 anyone would like to move to regular agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Move for approval. Second.
A motion and a second. Any comment on any of these items? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale. Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Regular agenda item number 7.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4020A to close the 20-foot alley running north and south located within Block 63 of the Muskogee Original Town Site, more particularly described in the ordinance, providing for severability and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin, and we'll now consider ourselves in a public hearing.
Mayor, members of the council, the applicant D. Booch is requesting approval to close a 20-foot alley running north and south within Block 63 of the Muskogee Original Town Site. It's located on the east side of Main Street, just south of Elgin. The reason for the closure is the applicant has purchased property on both sides of the alley. He wishes to consolidate the property and fence it off. At the subdivision meeting, it was determined that there is an AT&T line existing within the alley, therefore they would need to retain the easements. Staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works, all three recommended approval, subject to retaining the easement. Be glad to answer any questions.
If there's an easement and you fence, I'm assuming you don't have any permanent structure, just fencing?
Fencing.
That's not an issue?
Yes, fencing is allowed. They, under the understanding, if utilities have to get in there, they're not responsible to put the fence back.
Right, okay. No one has signed up to speak to this item, is that correct?
That's correct.
So we will close the public hearing. Does council have question or comment for Mr. Garvin?
Other than it's hard for me to vote yes for this just because it's D.
You know, he's not here to represent himself, is he?
I know.
He was at Public Works, though.
No, he was.
Second. A motion and a second.
And a second. We're good. Okay. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 8.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4021A, rezoning the property located at 418 West Shawnee Avenue, more particularly described in the ordinance from R1 Single Family Residential District to C3 Regional Commercial District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin again, and we will consider ourselves in a public hearing.
Mayor, members of the council, the applicant, Macedonia Baptist Church, is requesting approval to rezone 24,600 square feet from the R1 Single Family Residential District to the R3 Regional Commercial District. The property is located at 418 West Shawnee Avenue. It's located on the north side of Shawnee between Reeves and Chicago Street. The reason for the rezoning is to allow for the possible sale and/or future commercial development of the property. Looking at the existing zoning land use within the area, starting with the site. Currently, the site is zoned R1, and the church is located on the property. North, which is back behind the church to the rear of the property, is zoned C2, general commercial, and R1, single family, and Denson Heat and Air is located on a portion of the property, and a portion is vacant, undeveloped property. South, across Shawnee Avenue, is zoned C1, local commercial, and it's a location of Golden Corral. East, which is across Chicago Street, is zoned R1, single-family residential, and Blue Moon Calf. And west, across Reeve Street, is zoned C3, regional commercial, and is the location of the Aldi grocery store. Now, if you look at the future land use map, it does indicate regional commercial zoning along the Shawnee corridor, Highway 62 corridor. Therefore, this request complies with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. This item has been recommended for approval by staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works. Again, be glad to answer any questions.
And again, no one has signed up to speak to this item either, so we will close the public hearing. Does council have question or comment?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments additional? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston. Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 9, please.
Consider approval of Resolution 2696 declaring the necessity for acquiring easements as shown in the attached resolution to facilitate the 24th Street reconstruction project, authorizing the city manager or his designee to attempt to acquire said property by purchase and settlement of damages, and authorizing the city attorney to acquire said property by condemnation proceedings if the property cannot be purchased or take other necessary action.
Mr. Matt, where are you, sir? There we are. Mr. Beastie.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this matter comes before you today, as it did in Public Works, for the 24th Street reconstruction project. We have one parcel of land and we're anticipating 2 others we may have to take this action on, which will necessitate a condemnation. The owners for this parcel of land reside in California, and we've been able to contact them, and we've tried numerous avenues to do that. This project, and I have confirmed since our last meeting, is necessary to have this parcel to allow for utility relocation and the street reconstruction to occur. In this case, we have already had it appraised. We're willing to pay fair market value. This is not related to negotiation about price or any other circumstances. And once we do the condemnation, we'll again attempt through publication and formal service to give notice to the parties. If we can come in contact with them, we will settle this regardless of this filing status. If we cannot come in contact, this will allow us to go to court, allow the property to be used for easement purposes only. We're not taking ownership of it, and allow the project to move forward. I do recommend approval. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Other questions or comments?
Move for approval. I've got a question, just if you don't mind. In circumstances like this, when you can't get a hold of any family members, do you set aside monies that you might have paid, fair market value?
We actually don't set aside money. We pay the money. But in a case of a condemnation, we pay the money into the court. The court takes the money. If, let's say, the property is appraised at $2,000, if that's what the commissioners award for the price, for the fair market value, then we take that money, we send it to the court clerk puts it into an account. That money will sit there until someone is found, an heir or a lawful owner, to take possession of the money.
Okay.
But we pay for it regardless of the status or communication with the property owner.
Thank you.
At this point, are we talking about removing a structure or just?
This is a parcel of the property on the frontage.
Okay.
Basically like the ditch. If you look at 24th
Right.
Street, there are the bar ditches. This is a part of that just to the inside. So it's a strip that we'll use for relocation of utilities and street widening. And then when we're done, that'll all be basically put back into
Okay.
its normal state.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion
Well-
and a second. Is there other comments?
And I just want to make a statement, just because I feel like I need to. I understand sometimes we have to condemnation property. And and it's okay that y'all do that. It's just, I just have a personal preference towards it, and that's why I'll vote the way I am tonight.
And in response to Mr. Hall's concerns, when these do come up, and I've made it a process of the city attorney's office, the first thing I'll do is talk to Public Works and talk to Mike Stewart and see if there's any way to work the project around that property so we don't have to pursue condemnation. So we have made that, in deference to you, part of our normal process now, to see if there's a way not to pursue that.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
No.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 10.
Discuss and take possible action to develop a plan for a focused effort by staff and the community to improve the South Main Street corridor with particular emphasis on code enforcement, cleanup, and rehabilitation.
Councilors Ivory Van and Derek Reed on this item. Who is
Yes.
going to take the lead on it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I brought this item up because South Main Street has been like this a long time. If you go down South Main, you got lots that's growed up, bunch of trees, and there's no industry down there. It's a few shops. You have Come and Go. You have the pizza place now. That's the newest one. Is Pizza Hut. And for that area there, it's been lacking for a long, long time. And Councilman Reed, he's tried to get people down there to do something, but I think it's time to give that area some life, because last year or 2 years ago, the county had some of those lots. One thing I can say about the county was that when you got a lot growed up, they have a machine, track hoe, backhoe. They went in there and cleaned the lots up, and and the city don't have that kind of equipment to do that. The city just go in there and mow. But like I say, so many of those lots down there, it's just a mess. And so that's my recommendation that I want to do something like Mr. Johnson done the other at Public Works, where we take it to staff. Because like I said, that represents Muskogee. And that's the main corridor coming into Muskogee from the south off Peak Boulevard. And you come in and looking like that, and then you hit this nice, pretty sign on South Main. It looks so pretty. I have a problem with that, And that, like I said, that is Ward 3. And like I said, we need to get something done and do it, and so like we can make all our town look good. Not just take like North Main, totally different. It's kind of like going from South Tulsa to North Tulsa. You know what I'm talking about. It's different. So we want something down on South Main too, because I don't even think that Come and Go has been remodeled. All the rest of them, some I've seen them work on them, but down there, it's just like we're forgotten, and we don't want to be forgotten. I don't like to be forgotten. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to you, Mr. Councilman Reed.
I guess what Mr. Van is asking us that we try to explore some kind of options. I know during my tenure, I have spoke with Ricky Hayes about development in that area, and one of my main concerns is the Come and Go. It's a very busy Come and Go, and I was there today, and you stand in line to get gas, and so we just like, to have some attention shown on that Main Street area as you come in, because there's a lot of people who travel that highway coming in from the Peak area. A lot of people travel that area going to the casino. And so, that's an area that we really need to look at.
Okay.
I have a question. How much of that property is county and how much of that property, because that raised a big issue right there, is how much of that does the state have to pay for, Department of Transportation? Are they supposed to be taking care of, just kind of like 69 Highway? Those intermediates, they're supposed to be cleaning those up, mowing them, edging them, and they're not getting done. Not a lot of them. Then we go over to here. How much of that is city highway and county versus it actually being in the cities, in belonging to the city?
So you're trying to just determine where the city limits fall on South Main?
Because sometimes there's property in the city limits, but the county possesses the property, and
Gotcha.
they're responsible for mowing it. I don't want to point fingers back and forth at anybody, but. And I didn't say what I was actually thinking the other night, but I'm going to have to stop doing that. I'm going to have to start saying what I'm thinking more. Smile. The 90 days that we're looking at, even for the 69 corridor, is putting it way past summer when everybody's coming through our town. This is our most busiest time of the year, but yet we're putting things off 60, 90 days to plan for something during the winter that's not going to help the way we look when people are using our town right now. And that's what bothers me about 69 and then this South Main, is because there's a lot of things that need to happen on South Main or on the Nat-Irish Freeway and back that way. Is there a way when we look into this, because I'm in total agreement on both projects, that we can kick this up a little faster and still go in 60 and 90 days, that we can bring that back to 20 or 30 days so we can actually make a difference while summer's going on and the grass is green and everything's happening? Because theoretically, we should have already been taking care of it if it's ours.
I agree, Counselor. I think that whatever the previous motion might have been, if it was 90 days or 60 days, we should amend it now for 30 and see what we can get sooner. Because like you're saying, we're already in the peak of summer. Grass is already growing. To have it overrun and then look at it in 90 days would probably be an injustice to both of the projects.
Unfortunately, the 69 corridor item is not on the agenda, so we can't take any action to amend the previous motion on that.
But on this one, we could say 30 days and then maybe resurrect the other one at a later date.
Sure.
Well,
Okay.
Well, as if I may, as we look at these, they fold into the code enforcement plan, which we talked about at the council retreat, and is due in about 60 days or less. And so we do have an accelerated process. I think both these items can fold into that overall plan, keeping in mind that there's certain things we can do as a city. There's certain things that private landowners have to be responsible for their own property.
I agree with that.
And things that we can do to encourage them to do so. But at the end of the day, they have private property owners have a responsibility for their private property. And obviously, it's far more than code enforcement that is involved in getting some of these things as presentable as possible. So right now, what we're doing with a lot of these things is addressing the whole city without having targeted areas. And so what I'm hearing is that the council would like us to focus our resources on these particular two areas in this short time frame, knowing that we don't have necessarily more resources to put towards this at this current time. So that's, I want us to make sure we're making this decision or these recommendations, both of them.
And I hate knee-jerk reaction stuff, but I'm going to take from our illustrious mayor's comments one time. Are we open for business or not? if we're open for business, then we need to look like it on all four corners of our our gateways into this community. Right now, our 69 corridor doesn't look like it's open for business until you get down to the bottom of the hill, and Main Street doesn't look like it's open for business. So he's our illustrious mayor, and he had some bright ideas, and it's like, get us open for business. I think
I'd like to see us move out beyond just being on Main Street, but that
Yes.
whole corridor, and they have been very involved from a cleanup standpoint in the residential sector. Yeah, I'd like to see the focus wide rather than
Yes.
narrow.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You sure can.
Councilman Hall, one thing about Ivory Van, I do my homework. From Elgin Street all the way down to Kalamazoo. You know where Kalamazoo is, where St. Mark is?
Yes.
Okay. You have two lots. We're going back south. On the right-hand side, that'd be the west side of the road.
Okay.
Okay. The first county lot was right there where that little thrift store is. They're right there. It's like a little alley. That's one county lot. Okay, you go on down Main Street, just where that filling station used to be. Remember that? Okay, the second lot, that's one county lot. That's the only two county lots that's on that section. On across the street, all these lots are privately owned. The reason I say that because I pulled the documents at the county.
So we need to hold those people more responsible for getting ready. They're taking care of their yards.
Well, they do that since the county has cleaned it up. I mean, they took all the trees out. It looks 100% better.
But I mean, if they're private lots, we can't go on them and do them unless we file a citation against them.
Well,
So those people need to take care of their own lots, and that's kind of what our city manager alluded to, is that it's okay for us to do what we can do when it's our areas, but we've got to hold our citizens responsible as much as they're holding us as a city responsible.
Right, I'm saying.
They've got to take care of their stuff. If they can't take care of it, then they need to find some assistance or something, but I think it doesn't fall on the city at that point.
Mr.
That falls on
Garvin,
them.
by chance, are any of the Mission Muskogee lots that they're going to work on and clean up and paint and so forth, is any of that part of South Main, or is that not?
Not that I'm aware of. Any of them are on South Main,
Okay.
but I haven't seen a complete list, so.
But I appreciate you bringing that to me, because I was curious about that, about how many it was.
I had one lot. Derek knows where she lives, Miss Carter. You know where Miss Carter lives, Derek. Yeah. On that right there between Miss Carter and where Miss Reese lived, it was a lot there. And I went personally to the people's house, and I asked them, would they mind cleaning it up? And I mean, this guy, he gave me the fits. Now, if you go by there now, half the yard in front is cut. He can use a lawnmower. The rest of it has got trees and stuff. And he, at that time, he had somebody come over there and was going to cut the trees, and he started at it. But the thing is, I don't think we stayed on him. That's why I think we went wrong with this code enforcement, or we just didn't stay on him. But you stay on some of these people, I believe they do better. So I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Well, I do have a couple of things as suggestions as plans going forward. Number one, when we talk about the 60 or 90-day plan, to me a plan is what we do long-term for months and weeks and years going forward. What we do, we've already started some of the work as we talk about emphasis on Highway 69, because we talked about that last week. I've already started talking with Councilor Van since last week about South Main. So we can have activities, we can start doing things.
I just didn't want
in
us to
those
wait
areas.
for
Right.
90 days before we did anything.
Yeah.
As long as you're moving forward with
Yes.
this, I don't care. I mean, small steps, big steps, as long as we're doing something.
Yeah, to me, the idea of a plan is this is how we're going to operate moving forward. It's not necessarily a project that we do one time and forget. It's a plan. This is how we operate in this area. So that's why if we go with the 90 days till we have a document and we have a plan and this is the world we're going to live in, but between now and then, we're taking action and we can have our enforcement directed in those areas within the strategy that we're already doing. And so I would say we can do both. I wouldn't want to rush a plan, but I don't think I think we've already started enforcement in those areas within our existing structure. So
And I think our heartburn or our frustration is that we drive by these places and we don't really see any changes going on. And we're like, how do we see this? And the people that we're paying to do this don't do it. They can't see it. That's where we're coming from. And I hate being that person. I don't like someone calling up and telling me how to do my job. and I surely don't like saying something about telling other people how to do their job, but we are open for business, and we'd like to look like it.
No, and we've heard from the council retreat, and again last week and this week, and we've got some of the folks here that help us in the code enforcement area in the back that are listening to your every word. And we've got a meeting already planned later this week to discuss these things specifically about how we deal with specific trouble areas and direct our focus. Meanwhile, knowing that we do have limited resources and we do have the whole city that we want to work on. But I think the council's given us good direction. If Mr. Tucker last week suggested that we have a motion and direction to staff. If we do that, I would prefer that we incorporate this in with the other agenda item, that same time frame as far as the plan goes, but that wouldn't slow down our targeted enforcement any.
Also, how can we get some, like, industry, something down there, some businesses on South Main? That's another thing that needs to be thrown in there. How we can get something done down there, We got a towing company down there, and they don't follow rules,
Well, I do think economic development is an area that we put a lot of emphasis on as a city, and I think that area can be part of our focus and our strategy moving forward.
So what's the motion?
Mr. Tucker is working on a motion. Have you got it to a point where we can see what it looks like?
Yeah. The motion would be to move and direct staff to prepare a plan of action for the improvement and economic rehabilitation of the South Main Street corridor and to bring back the same for council approval within 90 days, as well as direct the immediate emphasis on code enforcement and other cleanup efforts in the area.
Move as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got a motion in a second? Any other comments? Okay.
Thank y'all.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully?
Yes.
Jenny Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 11.
Consider approval of City Council Policy 3-6-6, Voluntary Separation Plan, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Kelly.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This policy before you tonight is the voluntary separation plan. We've had a couple of discussions regarding this plan in the last couple of months. This plan is intended to be in effect for general employees, which are those employees who are not covered by the union. We have limited this to 10 participants under this policy, again, for those general employees. To be eligible for this plan, an employee has to be have had worked here for at least 10 years, and they have to be eligible for at least early retirement. This policy is intended to have some cost-saving measures over a couple of years. We can, of course, guarantee those participants. There are 14 eligible participants under general employees who could be or who could take advantage of this plan. But again, we would limit it to 10. We would allow benefits under this plan to be paid up to 500 hours of a combined total for vacation and sick leave, 2 years for either Medicare or insurance, or a combined total of 2 years for both, not to exceed 2 years. This would be a one-time policy in effect for fiscal year 2017-2018. We could extend it in years to come if we so choose. However, this policy is intended right now for only this next coming fiscal year. I'm happy to answer any questions, and of course, I recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second. Got a motion in a second. Is there any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully?
Yes.
Jenny Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 12.
Consider approval of Resolution 2698, authorizing a modification of premium payments made by the City of Muskogee from the City of Muskogee Employee Benefit Plan, Employee Life and Medical Fund, For participating employees under the voluntary separation plan for medical, dental, and vision insurance under the City of Muskogee Employee Benefit Plan, and a modification to vacation leave benefits for eligible participants, and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute said changes or take other necessary action.
Ms. Kelly again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is intended to allow the benefits to be paid under the insurance, and also a modification of the vacation leave policy to allow for the cap of the vacation to be paid. In additional, the additional benefit of the 360 hours to be paid to the employees who participate. This resolution is intended to be effective immediately if it is passed this evening. We tried to have an insurance meeting last week to discuss this with them. However, there was not a quorum, so we did not get an opportunity to discuss this. Of course, I recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Move for approval.
A motion
Second.
And a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 13.
Consider approval to receive donated funds through Neighbors Building Neighborhoods for the purchase and renovation of a vintage patrol car in furtherance of Phase 1 of the Legacy Initiative, or take other necessary action.
You just don't look like Rex Esker. You look to me like
Chief is on vacation. To the mayor and members of the council, what we're asking is that you consider this legacy initiative that will allow for donated funds to purchase a vintage car that will be restored to 60s era, to a 60s era police car. And I have Officer Garner who will quickly come up and give you some information, if you will allow that, and speak briefly about what this legacy initiative is all about.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Did I get the Uncle Horn? Oh, yeah. All right. Second.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Brandon Garner, and as you can see, I work for you. Tonight I'm here to seek your blessing for a special project known as the Legacy Initiative. With your approval, we can begin the process of bringing back a piece of history to Muskogee. For those of you that know me, you'll remember that I love history, especially that which pertains to our fine city. My absolute favorite are those things which are tangible, something that I can see, something I can feel. And that is what I want to preserve for the enrichment of our Muskogee. As one of your community resource officers, I've been working on a lot of civic events around town lately. As of late, one particular event I've been working on is the Cruising Angels and Street Image Car Club's Cruise Night, which is now a monthly event instead of just one time annually. They have us lead them on a lap through town. Everybody comes back, parks. It's a big block party, a lot of music, games, food for the kids. With just 5 days' notice, last September they had over 3,000 people packed on Broadway, which, if you know, that's a pretty big crowd for Broadway. So this year it's become such a hit that lots of people are coming out. It's now a recurring monthly event. Outside of Tulsa and Oklahoma City, we're the only city that has a recurring event monthly. Otherwise, it's just a one-time deal every year for every small, town in Oklahoma.
Isn't it this Friday or Saturday night?
It is this coming Saturday night, yes, at 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. there on Broadway. We expect to keep drawing larger and larger crowds every month, and we expect it to keep getting bigger and bigger from there. This kind of came about. I asked the fire department if they wanted to bring their vintage fire truck out to the show, help them get out, do some PR, just participate, extend the offer. And it runs, but it doesn't stop. They couldn't even get it across the street to the chili cook-off this year. The brakes are shot. So after talking with some people, I looked around in the car community. I know a lot of people out there. Trying to find a vintage patrol car to lead the cruise. Just someone that could come for a night. Still no luck. So I decided to start looking for one to restore since there weren't any around. I began to search the police archives here and the microfilms at the Phoenix, and was able to identify several models of the car that we used back in the late 50s and early 60s. Then you got some information about a man named Warren Roberts. He's an old retired police officer in Alma. He had a 61 Plymouth for sale, it just so happened. And that's exactly what we had. We had, back then, it's kind of like it is now, it's a hodgepodge of cars. Whatever had 4 wheels and ran, we would just take. So one of the vehicles we had back then was a Plymouth Fury, and he just so happens to have one running and driving there in Alma. So I then pitched the idea to the chief and a local businessman who bought into it and thought that was a great idea. The purpose of this project isn't just about fun, it's about history. It's about community and so many other things. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Muskogee history. The city is one of the most historically significant places in the state of Oklahoma. You're all on the council, so I assume you know your Muskogee history. Muskogee had the first steam engine in Indian Territory, the Pat Byrne, as they affectionately named, which was named after Muskogee's first mayor, Patrick Byrne. Pat donated this out of his own funds. He had seen the firemen struggle with pump carts and buckets through the many blazes and the 2 great fires that swept this city. Unfortunately, in the past, we've had the bad habit of letting things either fall through the cracks or crumble to the sands of time. That fire engine is now in the hands of the Oklahoma Firefighters Museum in Oklahoma City. It was quite the sight as it raced down the streets, the brick-paved streets of Muskogee, 2 large white horses named John and Jerry, the fire bell ringing and the firemen shouting. Pretty cool spectacle, but sadly it's not here anymore. So what I'm trying to do here is not only bring back a piece of our history, but also tie this in to use it for the community. What this is, it's completely fund-driven through donations. It doesn't cost the city a dime other than oil, gas, and rubber. This whole thing is funded through donations. The initial purchase of the vehicle is pretty much already covered. Victor Lozama, local businessman, is going to pledge half the cost, and I believe the Citizens Academy wants to pledge the other half of the cost, which is $2,000. The restoration of the vehicle and future maintenance will all be fundraiser money, which will be brought to you by Love Local Muskogee, which is Mr. Lozama's fundraising. That way it doesn't come off as though the city or the police department is directly asking for any money. That way it's a community-driven event so that people feel like they have a vested interest in this project. Now, this project's purpose is obviously to preserve a piece of Muskogee's history for future generations to enjoy. If you flip through this, that is the car as it sits in Alma, Arkansas. Apparently at one point they re-lettered it as a taxi cab, but we can fix that. After talking with the Cruising Angels, one of their guys is willing to do, I think, all the paint and body work for free. So that's a huge cost there. I know you're thinking, yeah, it looks cool, but what does it do? We can use this as a PR tool for the city of Muskogee in every parade, festival, car show, cruise night, whatever we have to offer. It acts as a recruitment tool for this department because as far as I know, I've done a lot of research, no other municipality has a vintage patrol car in their fleet outside of the highway patrol, and about half of those vehicles are privately owned. Serves as a living piece of history and a rolling memorial to those who have served this city in years past. Believe it or not, Chief Eskridge did not actually drive one of these back in the day. It's hard to believe, but it will also be a joint project between the police department and the community, as it will be funded. He gets it. Funded by the donations, therefore giving citizens a vested interest in the project, what helps to foster good community relations. And as it is a community-funded project, as I said, it will not cost the city anything other than gas, oil, and rubber. And again, the money is going through Neighbors Building Neighborhoods, and if you approve it, we'll get on its way. And I'll get out of your hair.
Oh, I hope Eskridge doesn't beat you up over that one.
You gotta catch me first.
Well, if y'all didn't catch that, I'm 50 years old. Rex Eskridge started before I was born, and that was in 1966. I think it was 66 or 67 when he started here. So he probably drove a couple of these. The fact that it's not going to cost us any money as a city, other than what you said, I like the idea. I was sitting here contemplating how we're going to pay for the paint, because I know restoring some of these cars get quite pricey, especially when you start trying to find the rubber gaskets and these little pieces that are rusted out. That gets expensive. But if you got guys that are willing to put money into this, and I may even donate something to it, but it's a great plan. I like it, guys.
Who technically will own it? Will be Neighbors Building Neighborhoods?
The city will own it.
City will own it.
It'll be titled to the city.
Okay.
And I just want to know if you're going to put a bubble gum machine on top, or if you're going to use the little bug eyes.
Actually, that photo it's a black and white photo, should be in there towards the back. It'll look just exactly like that.
So you can go with the bug eye lights.
Yep, except they won't have the badge and seal on it. Back then, they just say, like they do now, Muskogee Police on the side, but it was stacked instead of sideways. Looked
Real
like it
nice.
came
I
out of-
might find you some bug eye lights.
Yeah, it looked like it came out of a time capsule when we're done with it, Dan.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You certainly can.
Officer Gorner, I can say one thing. You are one sharp-dressed police officer. Those shoes are shining and that hat. I mean,
Well, Pete
you-
retired, so somebody had to carry on the legacy.
you would be commended. So I hope you, while they're doing this car, you ought to be the one looking over because I can still tell you're really neat. And, you know, so like I said, I'll commend you. When you do a presentation, you should dress like you dress.
I try.
During the
I
cleanup, he
appreciate
was
that.
not dressed like that.
Huh?
During the cleanup, he was
No.
not dressed like that when he's directing the activities of other folks.
He's dressed now. So I'm proud of you.
Thank
Move
you,
for
Councilman.
approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Any comments?
Mr.
Oh,
Garner and Chief Cotton, only thing I would suggest in future marketing of this project, I don't know if I would portray the car in the same images with police with dogs.
That is the only photo we could find. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, that's 2 Plymouth Furies back there. But I understand your point.
Okay.
other comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Definitely.
Mayor Coper.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 14.
Receive report for the activities of the Muskogee City County Port Authority or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, we have already approved the budget for the Muskogee County City County Port Authority in our overall budget for the year. We've also the contract that we have with them renews on approval of the budget, but we would like them to present today their report from the past fiscal year and what they're looking forward to for the next fiscal year. Marie Sinar is here, the Economic Development Director for the port, and we're happy to hear from her and whoever else she may have from the port to speak this evening.
You brought reinforcements.
Yes.
She doesn't need any reinforcement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So you can read every sentence on this, Marie? You can read every sentence on this, President? Okay.
Did you say
How do
absolutely?
you have? and so officially, good
Scott,
evening.
can you come up here, please?
He'll yank me off if I do. And so, good evening, Mayor, City Manager, and Councilors. I am Marie Sinar, and I am pleased to present this report to you tonight as the official Director of Industrial Development for the Port of Muskogee. This is a role that I humbly accepted in April of this year, and for someone who's been serving in this capacity for the past 10 years in various support roles, I couldn't be more pleased to now be in this role and leading this effort. So thank you for bearing with me as I will not go over all the words in these reports. However, I do want to hit a few of the highlights. First, since January, our office has managed 30 recruitment projects, including 15 new projects for this year. This is on target with last year's activity and up 50% from the previous year. Muskogee is still being considered for 23 of the 30 projects that we've worked on this year. As you know, we don't always receive feedback from the company or the consultants on these projects regarding why the company did not ultimately choose Muskogee. However, for the 7 projects that we were eliminated from this year, we did get insight or feedback from 3 of those companies. 2 of the projects that we worked on determined that they wanted to be closer to the Tulsa metro area. And this is a result of them wanting to be closer to either specialized labor or proximity to their current customers. And so really that's kind of out of our control. The other company had narrowed their sights on Oklahoma and Iowa. This particular company was going to be a large electrical user, and Oklahoma and Iowa have some of the most competitive electricity rates in the country. Unfortunately, the company ultimately did choose a community in Iowa, and that was a result of them wanting to be located closer to R&D facilities that supported some of the products that the company was looking to produce. The four remaining projects, they've either not made their decisions public, they're still considering other communities outside of Muskogee, or have decided not to move forward with their expansion or relocation projects after all. It is important that we continue to develop our relationships with the consultants that we work on on projects from time to time. In March, I had an opportunity to attend a familiarization event. This was hosted in conjunction with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce and the European American Investment Council, EAIC. At this event, I was able to reconnect with several of the consultants that we worked with on a major project that we worked on last year. Many of you may remember this project. It was the German manufacturer that we ended up creating a TIF district for at the John T. Griffin Industrial Site. It was that particular project, by the way, ended up going to Kentucky. And funny enough, the gentleman who was going to be managing the facility here in the U.S., he was a horse guy. So if you can imagine, you wonder how much being in Kentucky actually factored into that decision-making process. So, these decisions are made sometimes because of proximity to labor or customers, and often just at the whim of the management team wanting to be located near things that they're interested in.
We have horses here.
We do have horses here, and we tried to communicate that to them, but we very well can't compete with the Kentucky Derby, so we'll give them that. During the event, though, that I attended, it was nice to be able to reconnect with those consultants. They were actually giving a presentation to a number of the people that were being represented at that event, and they were highly complimentary of Muskogee and our pro-business attitude and efforts to help bring that project to Muskogee. So they also reaffirmed that they continue to market Muskogee to other projects and other companies that they're working with as well. So it was nice to be able to reconnect with them. I do think it's important, and Councilman Kell, I think we had talked about this at my last presentation, that this year we have become increasingly more proactive versus reactive in our recruitment efforts. We are now working on focusing on our supply chain, our existing supply chain, and building those up. We're working with our existing manufacturers and identifying their top customers and top suppliers, and also working with our partners through the Oklahoma Department of Commerce and Tulsa Regional Chamber to leverage some of their research tools to identify companies and opportunities to build upon Muskogee's existing strengths and capabilities. And so we are in the beginning stages of reaching out to those companies, and I look forward to communicating those results to you and on our next report. And so, as you've heard me say, the competition for recruiting business is highly competitive, and so our office continues to spend the majority of our time focusing on our existing manufacturers, facilitating their growth and expansion. As I say, 85% of new jobs and new growth in a community occurs from those that are already in existence. So that's we spend a lot of our efforts on that. To date this year, 5 companies have completed expansion projects. Those projects have created 47 new jobs and more than $1.25 million in new investment. As with our recruitment projects, our existing companies oftentimes, want to keep their projects, their expansion projects, confidential as well. That said, some of the more public announcements to date this year was the investment of a new powder coat paint system at Acme Engineering. This powder coating system replaced a very outdated and antiquated wet paint system. So they are definitely seeing more productivity with this investment as well. Burroughs Post Frame Supply continues to work on lean production improvements within their facility. They are continuing to invest in new equipment and new machinery, as well as upgrades to their facility and software improvements as well. And several of the companies which were really impacted by the downturn in the oil and gas sector are now seeing improvement and are starting to bring some of those jobs back, including Paragon Industries and Global Machine Company. So we're excited to see that turnaround for them. One of the projects that were not included in these figures was the announcement by Valorec, or the former TCA, Tubular Corporation of America. In February, Valorec was approved for a $455,000 incentive through the Port of Muskogee Strategic Investment Program. This was in response to their commitment to create 130 new jobs in Muskogee over the next 3 years. The 130 jobs that they're going to be creating will pay an average of $58,600 per year, which is 150% of our average county wage. So these are great quality jobs. To date, I checked today, and the company has officially created 50 of those jobs as we speak. These jobs could have gone to any of their other facilities, including their operations in Houston. And so we were pleased to be able to partner with the company and the corporate office to make sure that those jobs came to Muskogee. I think it's important to note, and maybe I've talked with you about this before, but this particular incentive was structured a little bit differently than how we normally award our incentives through this program. And so normally the company would begin receiving incentive payments once the company has reached the minimum threshold of 15 new jobs. For this particular incentive, we and the company, wanted to be cautious regarding the volatility of the oil and gas industry. And so for this particular incentive, the company, Valorec, will not receive payment until 3 years from now. And that will only be for the jobs that have been created and maintained for those 3 years. And so that's, I feel, responsible. So we're again, pleased to be able to partner with them on that. For tracking purposes, we only count jobs once they have been completed. And so, again, the project for Valorec was 130 jobs, so we are not counting that until those 130 jobs are committed. So, again, that's why it's not included in those figures, but know to date that they have added 50 new jobs. We also continue our efforts through our Dream It, Do It Committee, which is our local workforce development initiative. And through that initiative, we are working to develop the next generation of manufacturing employees. And of course, anyone who's heard me talk about that program knows I'm feeling very positive about the outcomes that we're receiving through that program. Since January, the committee has hosted a second round of plant tours of Georgia Pacific and Dow Tile for students from Muskogee High School. We've also conducted classroom visits with more than 100 seniors at Hilldale High School. The committee has also hosted plant tours of Griffin Foods and Valorec for school administrators through the Muskogee Area Education Consortium. The committee is also actively working to recruit new manufacturers to participate in the internship program that was developed by Hilldale Public Schools, and is currently working with the United Way and Junior Achievement to expand this program and make it available to all students in Muskogee County. This program, which really originated from discussions through our Dream It, Do It committee, is receiving statewide and national attention. This internship program is being actually looked at as a model for other communities to follow. With the State Department of Education recently sent a video team to Hilldale and developed a video which they can then show to other communities and highlight across the country. And so that video, if you haven't seen it, it's tremendous, and I will make sure that each of you receive a copy of that video following this presentation. I hope each of you will congratulate and give kudos to Dr. Kaylin Cootie, the superintendent of Hilldale Public Schools, for the creation and taking the first step in launching this program. This program has actually become a part-time job for her in addition to her full-time role as superintendent for Hilldale. So she's doing great work, and we look forward to being able to partner with her along with our other partners to expand this program, alleviate some of the burden from Hilldale, as well as roll this out in other schools as well. It is important that our staff continues to participate in training opportunities that allow us to be more productive and more efficient. This year, our marketing research manager, Carrie Keene, was able to complete the second session of her University of Oklahoma Economic Development Institute, or OUEDI. She's expected to graduate from the certification program later this year. It's a 3-part program. And finally, I'm very pleased to report that as of last week, I am officially a certified economic developer. Thank you very much. This certification is awarded through the International Economic Development Council, or IEDC. Currently, there are approximately 1,100 certified economic developers throughout the country, and so I'm amongst those 1,100. The exam is a three-part, two-day process which tests practitioners' knowledge in areas such as BR&E, or business retention and expansion, marketing, finance, workforce development, community development, real estate, strategic planning, and organizational management. That's a mouthful. The exam has a pass rate of less than 30%, and less than 10% pass on their first attempt. So you can imagine how pleased I was when I passed all three tests on my very first try. And so now I'm actually one of the youngest economic developers to receive this certification in the country. In closing, I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish through our office this year, and I know that we're going to be making great strides this next year. And so I want to thank each of you for your continued support of our efforts, including participating in our industrial development stakeholder meetings, and I'm be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there questions or comments for Marie?
Mr. Mayor, we recognized.
Sure can.
Yeah, I'm proud of you also, Marie, because I remember when I used to go to Muskogee Development,
Yeah.
first time I came, you welcomed me with that pretty smile.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And you still have, and you have that personality. And I am glad that you've worked your way up, and I'm so proud of you.
I'm pleased to represent Muskogee.
And we'll continue to do that, because you definitely do a great job.
Thank you.
But I had one question. You know, when you go out to the schools, do you have certain kids? I mean, do they sign up to go on these tours, or how does that work?
And so we let the schools determine who is going to participate. What we do ask is they consider students between 10th and 12th grade, just because they're going to be closer to graduating, and we want them to start thinking about those. Also, initially we had started targeting 10th graders because that's the age or the grade that they will be going into or able to enter into a vocational program through Indian Capital. We also want the schools to choose a cross-representation of students, meaning those that are on a college career path and those that are not. We want them to be aware that there are opportunities for them regardless of which direction that they want to go, as far as in engineering or management or production.
Well, thank you again for all your hard work. I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Did a great job, Marie.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't need anything on this, do we? Just
No.
accept it?
Just receive the report.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Marie, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And Scott and Carrie, thank you as well. Recognizing citizens to speak, and we do not have any that we are going to have at this time. We're going to read first the item number 15 relating to Mr. Johnson, Mr. Richards, and then we'll have you speak at that time. Okay? All right, item number 15.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. A, pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to 4 proposed economic development projects, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 2465, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. C, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 95, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. D, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
Now would be appropriate time. Okay. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Richards, whichever would like to go first. Okay, Bill Richards? Whoa, okay. Mr. Johnson, you're going to go first. This would be both speaking to item number 15. A.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, and I'm going to be talking about agenda item number 15A. We have a proposal before you that we have given information to you before. and you've received packets. I've gotten notes to help me stay within the time frame that you have allocated, and I think I can do that. So,
Mr. Johnson, let me take 1 second. Give us your name and address, just so people at home know who the speaker is.
certainly. I'm Bill Johnson. I live at 3403 Toll Place here in Muskogee.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The proposal that is before you is taking over 2 years to put together. And Metafund has listed this project as their best project they've ever looked at. They are the ones that's allocating the tax credits, and they have basically given us a maximum credit for tax credits. And that provides about 25% of the total cost of the project. The federal government has identified this area, this particular location, as severely depressed economic area, and that is the highest classification they have. Because of the economic income status, the average household income in Muskogee, it is a severely depressed area. The Small Business Administration has looked at this project. They had not funded tax credit projects before. They have looked at this project, they've endorsed the project, and they have provided SBA approval for this project. The significance of that is that they will guarantee the bank's lending for this project somewhere between 80 or 90% guarantee on the funding. The banks wouldn't loan me that amount of money because I'm too old, but the government likes what the project is, and they will guarantee the loans for the banks up to 80 to 90%. This business plan has been tested, it's been vetted, and been proven. Not only here in Muskogee and what I'm doing, but in other areas like Alma, this business plan has been done before very successfully. I've got to say that my project is bigger than that, and because of my background in the grocery business, it will have a very competitive grocery element to it. And I expect that to expand within 4 to 5 years to a new facility on the property. We are currently at Highway 69 a significant amount of business from outside of Muskogee. It's amazing how far our reach is. We're getting people coming, they come to VA hospital and they see it, they come in, word is spreading, customers are bringing us customers. Our sales continue to grow. I'll just say publicly that 4 out of our last 5 weeks we've exceeded $40,000 a week in that small operation that we're operating in Highway 69. I have personally put over $1 million into this project. I put my time, I put my energy, I put my expertise behind this project to bring it about. I was able to do that because I had the experience to do it. I would not have been able at this point to hire the management personnel to do what I've done. What the funding of this will allow me to do is to go ahead and expand the plan, expand the business, put together a management team, and get expertise in various areas that's needed to create a major company. This plan is designed to expand and expand rapidly. But Muskogee is my home. Muskogee has the opportunity for this, and the opportunity for this is available in many different areas because the traditional retail grocery operations are not suitable for severely depressed economic zones. I won't go into detail for that. I think it was in some of the proposals I gave you before. This is the best business opportunity and plan that I've seen. I'm excited about it, but it's not a business venture on my part. It's a life tithe. I'm combining a B model business, and I think I've given you information on that about. That is basically using the business model to do what nonprofits normally would do. The advantage of that is you're able to go in and get government loaning for it. You do not have to get all donations for it. But also the other element of it under Genesis 12.2 is to bring the nonprofit side to it and get nonprofit support for it. And I have given projections, financial projections. We've got all the costs involved. I had to make the projections on what the sales are going to be, and all I can tell you is I am conservative on the projections. And as you're probably aware, we are hoping to acquire nearly 30 acres of property. at Kurtzmall on the eastern end and the north boundaries of Kurtzmall. We will, as quickly as we can, open up 160,000 square foot of new retail space. Everything we're going to put in that retail space is going to be lower cost than people in Muskogee can find it in Tulsa or anywhere else around here.
Mr. Johnson, we are out of time. I hope you and Mr. Richards have worked together on your presentation. Is that a...
He's going to talk on behalf of the owner of Property.
Okay. All right.
My hope is to get this established, and the way I intend to leave it going forward is in the form of a trust or a foundation. I've told my boys not to expect to get anything out of this. They've got some life insurance.
We'll need to wrap your part of the presentation up, sir.
Okay. The objectives that I have here in reading, and although I've not gotten involved, in reading the objectives of the Bridges Out of Poverty, our goals are the same. I'm working to help bring people out of poverty. If you can give people savings on what they're buying, they do not decrease their benefits if they're on assistance programs. If they get a raise, they decrease their benefits. This will generate savings to the people.
Mr. Johnson, I hate to cut you off, but out of fairness for the rules, I need to do that.
I thought I had how many minutes?
5 minutes. Yeah, we're at the end of the 5-minute period.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you
very much for your consideration.
Okay. Mr. Richards, and if you would give us your name and address, please, when you start.
My name is Bill Richards, 4208 North Spruce Avenue, pardon me, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I'm a commercial real estate broker and have represented Kurtz Center for 12 or 13 years. My wife also has a business, a retail business here in Muskogee. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've been working with Bill Johnson and the owners of Kurtz Center for a little over a year and a half to effect this and facilitate this project that Bill is working on. He will be purchasing 35.79 acres, which will only leave 19 acres of the current Kurtz Center campus. A major obstacle of Bill's endeavor has been to fund the estimated $850,000 repair cost to bring the city's stormwater system back to a satisfactory operational level where the city could accept responsibility for its future maintenance. As we know, Kurtz has also had serious weather damage issues causing the loss of tenants and their rental income to Kurtz owners, which is one of the reasons there is so much deferred maintenance there. With the purchase by Bill Johnson, Kurtz owners have pledged to devote over $500,000 to the center's storefront and parking lot updates, on top of what Bill Johnson is going to be doing to the properties that he is buying. I'm here to ask the City Council to support the endeavor on behalf of the Kurtz Center owners as an investment in Bill's project and Kurtz Center as resources for the mutual benefit of Muskogee. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we would entertain a motion for executive session. I'm assuming, would that be correct? Okay, entertain a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any question or comment? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. We will now consider ourselves in executive session. If you please would excuse yourselves from the chambers while we have an executive session period.
You get to stay.
We'll now reconvene from executive session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson. Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
regarding items 15A, B, C, and D. Do we have actions needed on those?
If you'll just turn it over to me, Mayor. Item 15A, pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss 4 proposed economic development projects within Muskogee. After discussing each potential project and interest in supporting the same, I believe an appropriate motion would be to direct staff to move forward with the projects discussed in executive session within the parameters discussed, and further directing that no incentives be authorized without further action of the council.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there comment or discussion regarding that? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Items B, C, and D. Mr. Tucker.
Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465. After being fully briefed on the status of the negotiations and the likelihood of that a new collective bargaining agreement will be reached prior to June 30th, appropriate motion would be to approve an MOU with AFSCME, Local 2465, extending the terms of the existing collective bargaining agreement until the sooner of June 30th, 2018, or a successor agreement can be reached.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item C.
Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council did convene an executive session to discuss ongoing negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95. After being fully briefed on the status of those negotiations and the likelihood of a new collective bargaining agreement will be reached prior to June 30th, an appropriate motion would be to approve an MOU with the Fraternal Order of Police, Local Number 95, extending the terms of the existing collective bargaining agreement until the sooner of June 30th, 2018, or a successor agreement can be reached.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item D.
Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss ongoing negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57. After being fully briefed on the status of those negotiations and the likelihood that a new CBA, collective bargaining agreement, will be reached prior to June 30th, an appropriate motion would be to approve an MOU with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, extending the terms of the existing collective bargaining agreement until the sooner of June 30th, 2018, or a successor agreement can be reached.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second again. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. I believe that's our final agenda item. At 10:10, we will consider ourselves adjourned.